Hello and welcome, family, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways, family, and that you're moving into acclimatizing to the new earth, which is here. And the new earth is a narrative of love, because what we've been in, family, until this day, is a narrative of hate. Everything has been done. The root of everything, the root of this world global Babylon system has been hate, family. And then from hate, greed, superiority psychosis, superiority complex, narcissism, vampiristic vibes, but we are leaving a narrative of hate. And what made it so clear to me, family, was this statement that Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, made, where he said, hate never goes away, it just hides. And that, I don't know why, that statement has hit home, because it sums up the book that we are closing out. It sums up this whole experience and why it happened. It was all based on hate. Everything was driven by hate. Colonialism, slavery, even democracy. The war, the war machine. Because literally, since this Babylon system has been there, we have been perpetually at war, perpetually sacrificing, perpetually spilling blood. But I think us as Africans need to fully grasp that, because many of us, especially on the motherland, do not see the enemy of our soul correctly. It's like we have rose-colored glasses on. It's like we're stuck in some kind of fantasy land. It's like we've also joined this merry-go-round. Because you see, the enemy of our soul is the perfect oil salesman. They're the ones who teach you how to smile, but inside you're in a rage. Cloak and dagger, smoke and mirrors. And it's because, and I think family, like the reason our people have never been able to escape the snare of Babylon is because of this hate. Hate never goes away. It merely hides, waiting for when it will be given oxygen again. Like that should just, people should teach that this is how the enemies of our souls see us. And that means the hate they carried when they colonized us, the mentality they had towards us to even do that. Did you know the first concentration camps were in Africa? Even in this nation called Kenya, our freedom fighters were literally put in concentration camps. Our women were brutally, just the things that happened to them, you can't even. Many men would be like, oh no, don't say that. It's hate that brought that on. And they say their hate never went away, it just hid itself. Because we were almost coming to know ourselves in the 60s when there was the first attempt at liberation. Although, to be honest, our people have always tried to be free, so that's another lie. But we have to understand, family, as we go for the final liberation, the final restoration of our people. We have to recognize that for so long, those that we approached with love were seeing us through eyes of hate, and that's why they've always found us to be naive and useless. And because it's just like a hateful person doesn't overstand love. They can't. To a hateful person, love is naive. Love is something to, to even be taken advantage of. Love doesn't exist. They don't know love. And that has a lot to do with how they were created and where they come from. Ours is a loving creator family who made this whole cosmos, this whole world, this whole plane, who made us in love. So we are love. Which is why, in the narrative that you see about us now, we seem to be ignorant, naive, low level. It's because of that signature of love that someone who is made from hate can't overstand. So they can't inner and understand you ever. Because they're coming from a hateful place, you're coming from a loving place. They have tried to mimic our love. They've used our love against us so many times. And you see, a hateful person interprets love as weakness. They never see love as something powerful, as something way higher than hate. Because you see, they're from a spirit of destroyers. And we're from a ancient nation of creators. So for them, because they don't have this natural creative energy, they must destroy in order to make. We just have to imagine from a place of love in order to create. So we're creating from two totally different places. And the envy that the hateful ones have for the ones of love, because they can't operate in that. They can't just create. They can't just be happy. They can't, But that thing of hate never dies. It just hides, family. It really confirms a lot because, as I own a ranch. Well, soon I'll own a ranch. But I own a shrine by Mount Zion. And, the major farm holders are Mzungus, the former British colonies, their children, whatever. And they have isolated themselves. There are some who have mingled, but the majority have isolated themselves from the locals, from the Kenyans, from people like us. And the kind of rhetoric that they engage in whenever they meet about black people, they're so lazy, they're so this, they're so thick, they're this, they're that, is something that is still there, is something they still whisper. That's why their children also grow up to be hateful. Because that hateful spirit is what reigns supreme in their homes. From the horse's mouth, family, we heard it. Hate never dies. It merely hides. And we've been avoiding that. I almost feel like that we're hated collectively. We just want everyone to get along and we're all the same and blah, blah, blah. But for any true Pan-Africanist to emerge, They have to have overstood that statement 100%, because that will tell you the nature of the beast that we're living with. Hate never dies, it hides. So the person that hated you yesterday, the old man that hated your grandmother yesterday, his grandson still hates you today. It's something we have to accept and recognize, like, we've grown up in a super hateful world. That's why we never fit in. Because we're not destroyers. That's not our signature. But we've tried so many times to make people that hate us love us. You can't, family. That's what's delayed us individually. That's what's delayed many of the communities, our communities, from fully emerging. And that's what has delayed our true independence, our true liberation, our true freedom. It's because we always want to compromise with people that hate us. And I think we're entering a season where collectively, Africa will only be able to move forward when we collectively love ourselves more than those who hate us. That's the only way. Because for so long, we've been dealing with this hate, trying to understand it, change it, appease it, trying to deal with it with love. It can never work. We must create our own narrative of love, which is what the opportunity that we have before us is presenting us with. To just be our natural selves and to start to create from a place of love. Let me know what you think of Biden's statement. Hate never dies. It merely hides. Let me know what you think of that, family. And I really hope you fully understand that. Maybe actually, let's take a short break. When we come back, how do we deal with hate in our lives? How should we deal with knowing that we are a loving people dealing with a hateful people? How do we win in a hateful world? Let's take a short. Welcome back, family, to Wake Up Africa. We're analyzing the statement that Joe Biden made, that hate never dies. It never goes away. It merely hides. And, we've been dealing with a hateful people, a hateful world system that has to have this in order to survive. Like, they can't start loving us. They have to continue hating us because their system is built on hate. So the minute the hate is gone, the system goes. But what's happening right now is there's a massive awakening, elevation, like love is being poured into the planet, if I could put it that way. And by love, I mean creative energies, creative codes. Love, because love is creation. Hate is death, destruction. Hate is destruction. And actually, it's funny because I was looking up the word hate. And there's so many, they try and keep it simple. There's so many. But I found one where it just says intense hostility because of racism, blah, 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 national hatreds. But there's one which says intense hostility and aversion, usually deriving from. So this is the root that hate takes. Fear, anger, or a sense of injury. Extreme dislike or disgust, antipathy, loathing, etc. So there's a history, there's a story to that hate that we're not told about. It's rooted in fear and what our ancestors possibly did. But how do we deal with a hateful world, hateful culture, hateful people? I think the biggest stumbling block for those with a loving nature. Because you see, that hatred has now even seeped into our own culture, into our own nations, into our own families, where mothers will want to be like daughters and fathers will want the gifts of their sons. I think first you have to acknowledge that hate exists and we exist in a hateful world. And it's like oil and water. Is it oil and water or oil and vinegar? The ones that don't mix. You can't mix them. Once you recognize that, then you'll understand and understand why our ancestors always preached separation. Because a loving people cannot coexist with a hateful people. We've seen that. In the end, the hateful exploit the loving and do all kinds of sinister things, because hate has no bounds, just like love has no bounds. With hate as your root emotion, you will kill, steal, destroy, rape, molest, deny people food, watch people starve, So the first thing is to fully accept that. And I think that's been the challenge for us, is we've never fully accepted the level of hate that the enemies of our soul have. And that hate is proof in the kind of world they've created, where certain things that didn't exist in our nations are now prevalent here. Crime, rape again, incest, all these things didn't exist, family. We didn't even have words for them. Which I always find so fascinating. So first accept that, then accept that separation must come. Thirdly, you have to teach your children about the hateful people and the hateful world that they live in. Don't allow them to go in loving like we were. Our parents never told us what's up. Instead, we were told, love your enemies. More than you love yourself, I think. But we were never prepared for the world we went into. And then we were never fully briefed on what happened during slavery, what happened during colonialism. Like many Africans on the motherland didn't even know the full atrocities of slavery until Roots, the movie, came through. Then people were like, so brief your children, brief your community, and then start to create an alternative narrative. Because love trumps hate. Love is above hate. Love is more powerful. So if enough of us could move out of this narcissistic world and that narcissistic grip of trying to understand the hateful, and simply move into creating loving homes, loving communities, loving societies, that's how we shift the vibe, family. It may sound really basic, but that's how it happens. And we're in a season now, family. Before we were like in the age of hate, but the age of hate has come to an end. And we are now entering what they call the golden years, the golden ages, or the great age of love. So it's about healing, it's about restoration, but those things can't happen until you understand who you're dealing with. And you see, hate will destroy itself. We see Babylon eating itself right now, at war with itself. That's how hate always consumes itself. And the only way a loving person gets caught up is if they're in a cycle, a relationship with someone from that hateful DNA. Because you'll never have the space. They suck love. They suck. That's the energy they want from you, family. It's the most powerful force in the universe. And it's not how we've been taught about love in the movies and everything. Love is power. Love is I say something and it manifests. I say something and it appears. The lowest level of love is this love that we're shown by Babylon. That's the only love they can experience, this romantic love and, just very basic, very, very basic. Advanced love is power. And you should ask your spiritual team to show you love for real, for real. And once you really want to move in love, there will be a test that comes. Please watch the video I just did on this will be your final test. But the only way is those two worlds can't coexist together. And we must release this hate. First of all, the self-hate, the community hate, all of that. It's not part of our signature in order to move into the world of love. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Until next time. Tuko pamoja.